What's going on, everyone? My name's Joe Ivan, and we are live on 90.3 WESS, East Stroudsburg University, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Thank you all for tuning in to The Weekly Cheese, the Pocono's #1 place for everything Green Bay Packer. Just as a reminder, anything you hear on The Weekly Cheese is my opinion, and nothing you hear reflects the views or opinions of 90.3 WESS or East Stroudsburg University. Now let's get into it.
Rolling down Wisconsin highways with Lambeau Field in our eyes. Cars on 43 and trucks on 41. No, we got Packer pride. The beer is ready, so are the brats. Crank up the cheeseheads, baby. The Weber grill is high. We gonna tailgate to it. Just can't tailgate no more. From Kewanee to Milwaukee, Winnebago to Muskego. Everybody's very happy, and the Packers winning all the time. Looks like another perfect game. I love Green Bay. Love it. I love Green Bay. Love it. We love it.
Hey, Julio, St. Emmy, let's take the pick'em up down to the local bar. You and I will have a couple of barley pops. We'll cheer on those Packers, baby. We'll cheer on those Packers. Oh, yeah, baby, those Packers. Oh, yeah.
Fans in Sheboygan, Prairie du Chien. They came from Janesville, man, and from Racine. Look at these Packers, ain't nothing like them nowhere. Military Avenue, we love it.
Oneida Street.
We love it. Lombardy Avenue, we love it. Main Street, we love it. We love Green Bay. I love Green Bay.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to The Weekly Cheese. My name is Joe Ivan. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Week 15 has came and it is gone, and the Green Bay Packers beat the Carolina Panthers 24-16 at Lambeau Field on Saturday night. They advanced their record to 11-13. And although this victory was underwhelming and in some ways disappointing, it was huge for the Green Bay Packers. They now hold a commanding lead in the NFC standings, thanks to the Saints losing to the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. And the Green Bay Packers only need to win one game, one of the next two, to clinch home field and grab that coveted only first-round bye in the NFC. After the game, Aaron Rodgers said that this win left a sour taste in his mouth, and I totally understand why. Obviously, the team, first and foremost, and all of us in Packer Nation really would have loved to see the Packers just totally dismantle the 4-win Carolina Panthers. But the truth of the matter is, the Panthers are not nearly as bad as their record indicates. They are much better than most of the other 4-win teams in the NFL. And they lost 9 games this season by 1 score or less. They only lost to the Saints by 3 points, and they only lost to the Kansas City Chiefs by 2 points. It's safe to say that if the Panthers had Christian McCaffrey healthy all season long, they'd probably be a playoff team. Teddy Bridgewater's a decent quarterback. They play hard. They have a solid defensive line, although the pass rush stats don't support that. Their defensive line, obviously, is much better than the stats are telling. And, yeah, it was an ugly win, and obviously the offense could have been a little better throughout the whole game, especially that second half. Big win, things to feel good about, and, hey, we're one win away from holding that number 1 seed and getting the first-round bye. The first year that the NFL only has one first-round bye up for grabs. But really, the offense on Saturday was just a tale of two halves, similar to the Indianapolis Colts game earlier this year. Two completely halves were put on tape from the offense. The Packers got out to a fast start. They were able to gain a early 21-3 lead, and at that point, I can only speak for myself here, but I had a very strong feeling that this was going to be getting ugly, perhaps a fourth quarter boil type of ugly. But from that point on, the Packers offense seemed to go away from the run. They went away from what got them there. And it was basically stalled for the entire second half. Really, 2.5 quarters. The second half of that second quarter as well. The Packers offense just totally stalled. They were outscored 13-3 in the second half. And they were outgained in total yards 214-49. The Carolina Panthers picked up 214 yards of offense in the second half. The Green Bay Packers only picked up 49. Very strange game. Aaron Rodgers finished the game 20 for 29. He threw a season-low 143 passing yards, 1 touchdown. He did run for another touchdown. And he was sacked 5 times for a loss of 47 total yards. The touchdown he did throw in the air was his 40th of the season, which is leading the NFL still. And he became the first player in NFL history with 3 40-plus touchdown seasons. He's the only quarterback in the history of the NFL to have 3 separate seasons with 40 or more touchdowns. And he's still counting. 2 games to go. But despite completing 69% of his passes, which is his season average, Aaron Rodgers only averaged 5 yards per attempt on Saturday. And the offense had little to no downfield passing game for the entire second half. Really, the whole game, they didn't really go deep all that often. But that second half, it didn't even look like they were trying to go deep. The pass game as a whole was definitely the worst performance all season long. Davante Adams had 7 receptions, only 42 yards, no touchdowns. Very quiet game. Still had 7 receptions, but barely any yardage to show for it. No touchdowns. Snapped his 8-game touchdown streak. He had 8 straight games with a touchdown going into Saturday. And with his streak being ended right at 8, he is the 3rd longest streak in the Super Bowl era behind A.J. Green, who had 9, and Jerry Rice, who had 12. But really, the Panthers did a fantastic job at just rolling coverages his way and making sure that he was never in a one-on-one situation. The past 2 weeks, Davante Adams seemed to be strictly in single-man coverage, but on Saturday, the Panthers did a really good job at making sure they did not get beat by Davante Adams. Allen Lazard had the best game out of any of the Packers wide receivers. 5 receptions for 56 yards. 5 catches on 6 targets. And he had the largest passing pickup of the day for the Green Bay Packers, 22 yards on a huge 3rd and 7 conversion late in the fourth quarter that actually ended up keeping the drive alive. And it set up Mason Crosby's 51-yard field goal, which allowed the Packers to maintain that 1-score lead. And besides those 2 guys, the only other receiver really worth noting for Saturday's game was Big Bub Tunyon. 3 receptions, 18 yards, and a touchdown. 10th touchdown of the season, 5th straight game with a touchdown. That's the longest string of games with a touchdown by a tight end since 2014. But ultimately, the offense finished the day with less than 100 total passing yards due to the fact that they gave up the 5 sacks for a loss of 47 total yards. And those 5 sacks tie for this season the most the Packers' offensive line have given up in a game. They gave 5 away to the Buccaneers many weeks ago at this point, which ultimately was the main reason the Packers' offense looked so bad, and they ended up getting blown out so horribly against the Buccaneers earlier this year. But 5 sacks against the Carolina Panthers, which is strange because the Carolina Panthers came into the game with one of the worst pass rushers in the NFL. And they completely had their way with the Green Bay Packers offensive line, particularly the left side of the line. Lucas Patrick started his 3rd consecutive game at left guard and really had a hard time blocking the 6th-round draft pick rookie, Derek Brooks. Brooks was able to sack Rodgers twice when he was lined up against Lucas Patrick and really had the best game of his young career so far, lined up with Lucas Patrick at that left guard position, which really had me thinking that maybe the Green Bay Packers have reached the threshold of productivity with this current configuration they have at the on the offensive line. Maybe Corey Linsley's injury is starting to finally show the negative side effects of not having Corey Linsley in there. Luckily, Corey Linsley did return to practice this week. I'm not entirely sure if he's going to be playing in the game on Sunday. We'll have to keep an eye on the injury report throughout the week. But I'm very interested to see what happens, especially if Corey Linsley comes back. Great. No better scenario is Corey Linsley coming back, and he will be back for the playoffs. But for this upcoming week against the Tennessee Titans, if Corey Linsley's not ready to go, I would not be surprised to see Billy go back to the right tackle, Lucas Patrick retake his role as the right guard, a role that he's been excelling at throughout this whole season. And maybe, just maybe, we will see John Runyon Jr. get his first start of his career. I'd be a big game to have him have his first start against the Titans, but that's what I'm hoping for. You guys know that I'm a Runyon guy at this point. I really want to see what he can do in there with the starting unit. But really, as bad as the offensive line was in pass protection on Saturday, and trust me, they were bad in pass protection on Saturday, they were equally as strong in the run game. They were creating big holes for Aaron Jones all night and carried the Packers offense to a 7.2 yard per rush average for the game. Billy Turner had an outstanding game all around. He only allowed 1 pressure in his 38 pass blocking attempts. And his blocks at the point of attack in the run game just helped Aaron Jones break off his 2 biggest runs of the game. And that 46-yarder that he had early in the game was basically all thanks to Billy Turner's extremely strong blocking. But the run game as a whole thrived on Saturday. Minimal complaints as far as the Packers' run game goes. Jamal Williams did go down early in the game, so Aaron Jones was basically tasked with all of the workload when it came to carrying the ball. He did finish the game with a season high in snaps and carries. He had 20 carries for 145 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. He now only needs 20 more yards to surpass the 1,000 mark for the season. And over the past 4 weeks, Aaron Jones has posted 434 rushing yards. That's about 6.5 per carry. He's definitely back from that injury he suffered earlier in the year. I know the Packers like giving Aaron Jones, well, it seems as if they've wanted to give him a little bit of a rest the past couple of weeks, really. He hasn't been getting more than 15, 16 touches. And all season, really, he hasn't been getting beat up all that much. He hasn't been carrying the ball excessive amounts of times per game. There's been a pretty even split all season long with Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. But 20 carries, 145 yards, and 1 touchdown, and I would have liked to see them keep feeding the guy. The Packers rushed for 195 yards as a collective, the second most under Matt LaFleur. Aaron Rodgers had 5 rushes for the 26 yards and that rushing touchdown. And A.J. Dillon broke off 1 run for 18 yards. At the beginning of the game, the Packers were showing looks that had both Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams lined up simultaneously in the pony package. But once Jamal Williams left the game with his quad injury, not only did the whole offense begin stalling basically as he exited the game, but it seems as if LaFleur's game plan got just shooken up. It looked like they were really planning on lining both Jamal and Aaron up in that backfield and just running down the throats of the Carolina Panthers. And when Jamal left the game, that sort of changed. And the Packers offense slowly started stalling and ultimately never got its groove back to finish the game strong. In that second half, the Packers ended up punting 6 straight times in a row. The final 2 drives of the first half, and then to start the second half, the Packers punted on 4 of 5 drives. In the beginning of the game, they were able to just gash the Panthers' defense. Gash them on the ground. Aaron Jones was having his way. He was hitting the holes hard. He was picking up chunk plays, 4, 5, 6, 7 yards. I mean, the Packers averaged 7 yards per carry. But 13 of his 20 rushes came in the first half. The entire second half, Aaron Jones carried the ball 7 times. It really made no sense. The offense seemed to just completely abandon the run. And they tried to beat the Panthers with these run-pass options and quick passes, which totally halted the offense. It took them out of the groove. Aaron Rodgers, 18 of Aaron Rodgers' 29 passes were completed at the line of scrimmage or behind it. He finished the game with an average completion air yards of 1.6, which basically means that for the whole game, all 29 passing attempts, he averaged just 1.6 yards with the ball in the air, which is significantly less than his season average of 5.5 yards in the air per attempt. I know after the game, Matt LaFleur talked about how Green Bay thought they could take advantage of the Panthers' poor tackling on the perimeter and in the secondary, which is obviously why Matt LaFleur was opting to go with these extremely short passes, wide receiver screens, reminiscent of the McCarthy era, just bogus plays, in my opinion, that did not work and nearly got Davante Adams' head taken off. And the strangest thing to me, which actually seems to be a recurring theme in all of these games where the Packers offense fails to show up or gets stalled in the middle of the game, gets stuck in neutral for a couple drives, every time, Matt LaFleur just he doesn't seem to want to adjust, or he doesn't feel the need to adjust. It was very obvious after the third straight punt that the Packers offense needed to start doing something different, that they needed to start running the ball more. They needed to start opening up play action by running the ball. But no, LaFleur stuck to that short pass, quick pass, run pass option offense for the entire game, basically. And the Packers only scored 3 points in the second half. It was really inexplicable, in my opinion. And it doesn't happen all the time. The Packers' offense barely has stalled this whole season. But Aaron said it himself, a performance like that will not win against many of the teams in the league, especially the ones in the NFC playoff picture. The Packers can't afford to stall for an entire second half like they did on Saturday or like they did against the Indianapolis Colts 3 weeks ago. They just can't afford to stall. Luckily, the Green Bay Packers have Mason Crosby to come in and really just save the day, as he always does. Packers scored 3 points in the second half, and that came by way of Mason Crosby kicking a long 51-yard field goal. He was 3 for 3 on extra points. Perfect for field goals. Only attempted the one 51-yarder, which he sunk to help keep the Packers from blowing that game, really. If Mason Crosby doesn't make that field goal, the Packers have a 4-point lead and the Panthers are getting the ball back with strong field position. Mason Crosby needed to make that kick, and he did. And he remains perfect on the air, 16 for 16. But yet, Mason Crosby got snubbed from the Pro Bowl. Mason Crosby was not selected for the Pro Bowl this season after starting the year 16 for 16. Last week, 57-yarder late in the game. This week, 51-yarder late in the game. Consistency and perfection week in and week out from Mason Crosby. I don't know if those 3 extra points he's missed this year warrants him missing the Pro Bowl. He did get snubbed, but the Packers did end up with 7 Pro Bowlers this season, which is the most for a Packers team since 2011. The Packers Pro Bowlers for this season are Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Jair Alexander, David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, and Zadarius Smith. That is a very impressive 7 players on the Pro Bowl team is a whole lot, but if you ask me, the Green Bay Packers deserve 9. Mason Crosby got snubbed, and Big Bub Tunyon got snubbed. I didn't just think Big Bub Tunyon was going to be a Pro Bowler. I genuinely believed Big Bub Tunyon would be starting in the Pro Bowl. With George Kittle being out all year, I can't think of one better tight end in the NFC. Pardon. There's a couple better in the AFC, but in the NFC this season, I cannot think of one tight end who has been more consistent or important for his team's success. And it's a damn shame that Big Bub Tunyon didn't get a Pro Bowl nomination this year. I have no doubt he'll be getting it next year. Pro Bowl is a popularity contest after all, and no one even knew about Tunyon coming into this season. But he's making a name for himself, 10 touchdowns on the year, leading the tight end group for the entire NFL in touchdowns, and a strong part of this Packers offense. But yeah, ultimately, this very disappointing offensive performance on Saturday, I do not believe it's really something us fans need to worry about or the Packers really need to worry about. They will address it this week in practice. This season has been tremendous for the Packers offensively. They've been at the top of every statistic that there could possibly be for offense all season long. They lead the league in scoring. And I do believe they will be all right. But they must use this past Saturday as a learning experience. They must take it as a lesson and make sure that if they start stalling in a playoff game down the line and things start getting difficult for them, they can't move the ball, adjustments must be made. Adjustments must be made. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to break down the Packers' defense. Surprising performance from the defense this past week. Who would have thought that we'd have a victory and I'd be complaining about the offense and praising the defense a little bit. First time for everything, I suppose. Don't go anywhere. This is 90.3 WESS, East Stroudsburg University, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and this is the Weekly Cheese. Be right back.
Green Bay's gonna love ya. Well, A-Rod is so mellow now that Big Mike is gone.
Well, maybe he's on them CBDs.
Or maybe it's the bond that he has with his flower that he holds so dear. It makes you wonder, hey, Mr. Rogers,
Do you water that guy with beer?
La Fleur, flower of the frozen tundra. La Fleur, Green Bay's gonna love ya. Old Holmgren's got his way. Lombardi his
I think LaFleur should have he should have a garden. Yeah.
Planted by me and you.
How about just you? I could kill rhubarb.
Yeah, he'll go down in history like the first Lambo leap. He don't need no fertilizer.
He's aerated by Jones's cleats. LaFleur, LaFleur, flower of the frozen tundra. LaFleur, LaFleur, Green Bay's gonna love ya.
Zedarius makes those QBs fear. Bakhtiari can drain a beer. Mason Crosby with the leg of steel.
And Kenny Clark's happy halfback meal. Boom.
Devontae, Big Dean Lowry, and that punter, J.K. Scott.
But without the flower of the frozen tundra, they'd all just go to pot. LaFleur, LaFleur, flower of the frozen tundra. LaFleur, LaFleur, Green Bay's gonna love ya. LaFleur, LaFleur, flower of the frozen tundra. LaFleur, LaFleur, Green Bay's yeah, so I'm not French, so I don't honestly know if it's LaFleur or LaFleur or LaFleur or something like that, you know. And by the way, I just learned that LaFleur. It's a French word. It means flower, you know. So now this whole song makes a lot more sense. I'm telling you that right now. I mean, if you didn't know that, I suggest re-listening to the song again. It'll make a heck of a lot more sense. Second time around, for sure. And there's no shame in not knowing. I mean, heck, the only French word I knew before LaFleur was the Bears, you know, and you don't need to bleep out the there, because it only counts as a swear if it ain't followed by the Bears. Father Tom told me that. And so, actually, you know what? You might want to bleep it out. There's a chance my mom will listen to this, and, you know, her wood spoon still works.
Yeah, alright. Come on. My Green Bay Packers, proud and strong, standing tall above the rest. It's right where we belong, 'cause we love the feeling of being number one. Pack proud and strong. Green and gold, gifted and bold, our pride showing through all the way. By any test, we give our best with determination, pride and energy. My Green Bay Packers on to victory. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My Green Bay Packers, proud and strong, standing tall above the rest. It's right where we belong, 'cause we love the feeling of being number one. Pack proud and strong.
And we're back to the Weekly Cheese, 90.3 WESS, East Stroudsburg University, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. And those two songs you just heard were LaFleur by Barons and Gruel. Gruel, I believe I'm pronouncing that second name right. Barons and Gruel. And that second song, Pack Proud and Strong, by the fan favorite Eddie J. Lemberger, the greatest Packers musician there ever was. But let's get into this Green Bay Packers defense. On Saturday, against the Carolina Panthers, the Green Bay Packers were able to hold a team to under 20 points for the fourth time all season. With a timely turnover and extremely strong red zone defense, the Packers held the Carolina Panthers to under 20 points. And as far as this defense goes, A-plus performance, I would have to say. Not in general terms of great defense, but as far as this Packers defense goes, great performance. The run defense, for the most part, was able to contain the Panthers' rushing attack. They gave up no carries for more than 13 yards and just 4 carries that went for 10 yards, 2 of those being scrambles by Teddy Bridgewater. And the defensive line was solid all game. The defensive line is a unit of this Green Bay Packers team that I've been pretty critical of this season. Had a very slow start as a unit, but over the past 4 or 5 games, this Packers defensive line has started to really raise their level of play, and it all begins with Kenny Clark. I said last week that come December, Kenny Clark becomes basically an entirely new player. He steps his game to a level, an elite level. He brings his game to an elite level late in the season and into the playoffs. And he led the Packers defensive line on Saturday with 4 tackles. He was able to get 6 pressures on Teddy Bridgewater, forcing him out of the pocket, making him uncomfortable. And he's really just showing that he's not only healthy, but he's primed and ready to go for the playoffs. He's totally disruptive. You got to go back and watch the game from Saturday. Even when he's not finishing the plays and he's really not the guy stealing all the thunder on the play. At the initial point of attack, and as soon as that ball snapped, Kenny Clark is a problem for offensive lines. He's usually doubled, and he just consumes so much attention due to how much he moves the line. Kingsley Keke had another strong game rushing the passer, and I believe as Kenny Clark's performance has risen, when Kingsley Keke gets in there, he really is more comfortable, and maybe he's just feeding off Kenny. I don't know, but over the past 3 weeks, Kingsley Keke has seen a minor increase in snaps. Only took 24 on Saturday, but he really did make an impact in those 24 snaps. Landed 2 hits on Teddy Bridgewater. He didn't get credited for a sack, but he put him on the ground twice. And Dean Lowry was able to get his big mitt on yet another pass. Dean Lowry is, whatever complaints you have about Dean Lowry, his dexterity at the line of scrimmage is good. He shows time and time again that he has the ability to get a few fingertips, if not the whole mitt, on the football before it even has a chance to getting to the receiver. The inside linebacker unit for the Green Bay Packers, another area of the team which could be argued is the worst unit on the team, had a decent game. Chris Barnes got the start with the mic. He was granted the privilege of calling the defense, wearing that microphone headset helmet over Christian Kirksey, who has been the Mike linebacker over the past 5 weeks, whenever he came back from injury. And Chris Barnes is really showing that he has the athleticism and the football IQ needed to beat the Packers starting linebacker at this point. He forced a game-changing fumble. The play of the game goes to Chris Barnes on the goal line late in the second quarter that allowed the Green Bay Packers to go up 21-3. Teddy Bridgewater was running a no-huddle, gets the ball down to the 1-yard line, hurries the offense up to the line, snaps it, and tries to do a cute little dunk like Cam Newton's dolphin dive over the line of scrimmage on the goal line. A couple weeks ago, he tried to do that, and Chris Barnes just comes out of nowhere and just punches that ball 5 yards, 6 yards, and gets scooped up by Kevin King. And the Packers now have the ball in good field position, and we're able to go up 21-3 early. Chris Barnes also had an amazing blow-up of a screen pass. He recognized it, and he just beat the blocker and blew the play up for a loss of 6 in the second half. And his run defense was solid. He tackled Mike Davis 3 times for just 3-yard gain. Now, unfortunately, Chris Barnes did leave the game after 31 snaps with an eye injury. I don't know how he suffered an eye injury. I was under the impression that all players were wearing mandatory masks underneath their face masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So I don't know how his eye was injured. Couldn't see it back on the game film. I hope it's not too serious. When you hear an eye injury, you go, oh, geez, what could that possibly be? But Chris Barnes really is showing some potential, and I am beginning to question how this guy was such a late pick in this draft. We're undrafted. That's right, yeah. Chris Barnes was undrafted out of UCLA. I don't know how. He's the best linebacker on the Green Bay Packers, what can I tell you, in his young career. Christian Kirksey finished the game with a team-leading 8 tackles, but he really does continue to show that he is no longer quick enough to be productive in any sort of coverage scheme. He is slow, he is clunky, and he gets beat in coverage constantly. Sorry about that. I take a sip of water. The room I am currently sitting in is the driest room on the East Coast, I would say. It's the driest room on the East Coast. The Packers' pass rush as a whole, they got after it. They were able to sack Teddy Bridgewater 3 times, hit him a total of 6 times. The Smith Bros logged a sack apiece. They finished the game with a combined 5 tackles. Za'Darius picked up his 11th and a half sack of the season. And Rashawn Gary continued to show power, speed, and most of all, energy. Rashawn Gary brings an added sense of energy to the defense as a whole, specifically the front 7 and the pass rush. And there's a noticeable drop-off when he's in the game from when he's not in the game. His presence over the past 5 weeks has really allowed Preston Smith to shine. It allowed Preston Smith to, receive less attention from blockers or maybe feel an added sense of urgency, needing to feel the need to compete with the young guy. But whatever it is, when Rashawn Gary over the last 5 weeks has just totally enhanced the level of the pass rush. He got a QB hit of his own in there, although he didn't get to finish the sack off. But the pass rush is improving. They're showing consistency over the past 5 weeks, and that's an area of the defense that's going to need to come alive over the next 2 weeks of the regular season for the playoffs. When the Packers pass rush is on, I say it week in and week out, when the Packers pass rush is on, the defense as a whole is way more efficient. Opens things up for the secondary, forces the QBs to throw ill-advised passes, opening up interception opportunities for the secondary of the Green Bay Packers that has had difficulty turning the ball over basically all season long. The secondary on Saturday had a strong performance. The safeties played great. The safeties were phenomenal. Adrian Amos, well, really over the past month, has been playing his best football in his Packers career. And the safeties unit as a whole, Darnell Savage and Adrian Amos as a duo, have just risen their level of play over the past month, which is all you could ask for going through a season. Amos finished the day with 7 tackles, 1 sack, and most impressively, 3 passes defended in what was perhaps his strongest game, sporting the green and gold. He had 2 passes defended in 3 plays to force a punt right before halftime, and he saved a touchdown by deflecting a pass right at the last second that was right in Robbie Anderson's hand in the end zone, basically saving that red zone stand for the Packers defense and forcing the Carolina Panthers to kick a field goal. Darnell Savage finished the game with 6 tackles of his own. He had 1 tackle for a loss and a pass defended of his own. And he's really just coming alive. He is showing that he's now comfortable as a pro in the NFL. The game seemed to have slowed down for him. He's moving all over the field. He had a couple of beautiful run stops on Saturday. And he's just making splash athletic plays, the plays that everyone was hoping he'd start making last year, which he dealt with some injuries throughout the season. It was his rookie year. He was getting acclimated to the league. He put on some weight. But man, do the Packers safeties look good at this late stage of the season, and I would look for them to keep performing this way down this stretch here. As far as the corners go, obviously, Jair Alexander is a beast. He absolutely shut Robbie Anderson down all game long and completely just shut down his side of the field. There's no complaints any week for Jair Alexander. He is the best corner in football, if not top 2, depending on who you talk to, in his 3rd season. But with Jair Alexander playing at such a dominant level and being such he shuts down an entire half of the field. With him playing like that, Kevin King he's going to be, and he has been, targeted frequently. And despite recovering that forced fumble by Chris Barnes at the goal line and setting up the Packers in good field position, he did run very slow on that fumble recovery, might I say. He was getting just destroyed all day long. He gave up 6 catches for 127 total yards, 98 yards alone to DJ Moore. He allowed 5 first downs. He missed 2 tackles. He had 2 penalties, one being a huge holding penalty on a 3rd down in the red zone late in the game, late in the first half, which set up Teddy Bridgewater's rushing touchdown. Early in the second half, set up Teddy Bridgewater's rushing touchdown. And he just needs to pick up his level of play. He's in a contract year. Yeah, he's been hurt throughout this season with his shoulder injuries. Who knows why he's getting shoulder injuries? Maybe it's because he refuses to wrap up on tackles. He just throws himself repeatedly at ball carriers as hard as he can, leading with his shoulder, just bouncing off of them. No wonder his shoulders are getting hurt. But down this stretch, he needs to play well. He needs to step up his level of play. Last year, he was able to get a lot of opportunistic turnovers, and that is something that has not translated to this season. And with that not coming over to this season, it is just exposing glaring holes in Kevin King's game. And yeah, against the Carolina Panthers, Kevin King can afford to have a performance like this. But against the Seahawks, against the Rams, against the Bucks, against the Saints, Kevin King needs to show up because he was absolutely suspect on Saturday and got just torn up all game long. It was hard to watch. His tackling is very hard to watch. And Shannon Sullivan last week against the Philadelphia Eagles had a pretty tough go about it. He was missing tackles. He was blown coverages, and he had a much better game this week. He finished the game with 4 tackles. He had a defended pass. He didn't seem to get totally dismantled in coverage. And he had a nice bounce-back performance. Shannon Sullivan has had to assume like a much larger role this season with the absence of Tramon Williams. And he's had his growing pains. But to see him bounce back and really play much better than he did the week prior is encouraging, especially because he didn't have any horrible lone coverages for a touchdown late in the game, and the Packers defense really did rally and do what they needed to do to win the game, particularly in the red zone. The Panthers only scored 1 touchdown on their 5 trips to the red zone, and that is the reason why the Packers were able to fend off the Panthers' comeback. By going 1 for 5 in the red zone, the Packers were able, by holding the Panthers 1 for 5 in the red zone, the Packers were able to stop them from scoring 19 points. They forced the Panthers to leave 19 points on the board, which would have gave them a handed victory, if you think about it. And this season, the red zone defense improved tremendously. Really has been improving tremendously over the past 3 weeks. But on Saturday, the red zone defense only allowed a touchdown on 22% of the attempts. Over the last 3 weeks, the Green Bay Packers red zone defense is allowing 44% touchdown percentage, which is significantly better than they've been doing all year long. This season, the Packers are middle of the pack in terms of opposing teams' touchdown percentage in the red zone. They're hovering at around 65%. But over the past 3 weeks, they've stepped it up. They've shut teams down in the red zone, forced field goals, forced turnovers. And it's really nice to see. Considering the Packers' defense is so suspect in many phases, they have a hard time stopping the run consistently. The middle linebackers seem to have an issue covering. A couple of the guys in the secondary seem to have that same issue in coverage. The Packers rely on being a bend but don't break team. Last season, that was basically their mantra, as they were truly a bend but don't break team. They allowed teams to get yards, move the ball, but when it came down to the red zone, the Packers really locked it down. Cannot say the same for this 2020 Packers team. But over the past 3 weeks, they've kind of gotten back to that bend, don't break mindset. And that's really something that's going to need to continue for the playoffs. The Green Bay Packers defense is not great by any stretch of the imagination, but they sure are good enough to win games in the playoffs. There's not one defense in the NFC that is bone-chillingly scary. The Saints might be the closest thing to it. But the Packers showed what they could do against that Saints defense already. It's up to the Packers defense to continue to improve. It is up to the secondary to continue to improve. Kevin King needs to improve personally. The pass rush needs to continue to get after it. And the run defense needs to maintain this level of somewhat consistency that I highlighted from this past Saturday. It's pretty funny when you think about it that I'm congratulating the Packers on only giving up 4 rushes for 10 yards. But ultimately, the Packers defense did what they needed to do. They held the Panthers to under 20 points, which was extremely necessary considering the Packers offense was so inexplicably stalled throughout the remaining majority of that second half of the game. And I view this past Saturday's game as something for the Packers defense to build off of. Chris Barnes hopefully feels more and more comfortable and confident after his amazing performance as the starting middle linebacker for the Packers. He definitely allowed the run defense to improve this week. And yeah, hopefully it's a building block for things to come. This Packers team is damn good. I don't want any of my complaints that you hear on the Weekly Cheese to make it seem like I'm doubting it. This Packers team is good. But in order for them to get over that hump and get to the promised land, get to the Super Bowl and bring back that Lombardi trophy to Green Bay, they're going to need to improve defensively, continue to stop the run, and make adjustments when needed. A couple weeks ago, I was complaining about Mike Pettin and his lack of adjustments. And this past week, and against Indiana, LaFleur seemed to not adjust. We're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, we're looking ahead to Week 16. Tennessee Titans come to town. And what's going to be a big matchup for the Packers against a true contender in the AFC. Don't go anywhere. It's Weekly Cheese, 90.3 WESS, East Stroudsburg University, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania.
Aaron Rodgers with the wrist. Eddie Lacy with the truck stick. Clint Dix with the picks. Quick to pick the quarterback and get the upset. We got the NFC North sick. We got the NFC North lit. Face of the North in the North face. Winning if they need to score check. Stay on their radar. Big 52, we got Clay on their radar. They making plans of the playoffs. They know we gon' take off. They seeing Green Bay on their radar. They talking offensive defense. They know that we decent. They play us. They better watch AR. Number 18 on the bench when he come back is Liddy again. He gon' play like he hates y'all. We a title town. Ain't the secret, this Pack City. Mike McCarthy with the play call when we touch down, that's a Rack City. Old line on the goal line. Out route so the backs get it. Linebacks better slide down when we drive down back to back winning. We win again, yeah. They counted us out, now we lead the division again. At the top of the route, 17 and Jody with the hands. AR-12 split the divas, you know that we winning again. AR-12 split the divas, you know that we winning again. They don't want to see the squad, they just watch us beat the lines. They don't want to see us blitz the number 52 and hit you from the side. Winning again, we got the division again. Winning again, they know that we got the division again.
Got them NFC North fans mad at Cheeseheads winning. We winning. Mid-season, we was near the bottom, now we leading our division. Yeah, them boys back up on the mission. Yeah. Just know that we coming for everything. The city lit. Clinton Dix with 2 picks in the best game. High 87 lead the league with no propos. Frozen tundra where it's so cold. Blitz Rogers, that's a no-no. Run the table, yeah, you know we did it. Postseason, know we coming with it. Better yet, we coming for it. Charged up, no Melvin Gordon. All-time leading scorer. Mason Crosby with the field goals. Bandwagons, we don't feel those. We marching on them, no steel toes. Got division on lock. We on top, no cellmate. I'm somewhere by Lambeau, and I'm with the skulls at the tailgate.
Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are 4-6, but they're at Philadelphia. They play Houston, Seattle. They got to play Minnesota, go to Detroit. This puppy's over.
They counted us out, now we lead the division again. At the top of the round, 17 and Jody with the hands. AR-12 split the defense, you know that we winning again. AR-12 split the defense, you know that we winning again. They don't want to see the squad, they just watch us beat the lines. They don't want to see us blitz the number 52 and hit you from the side. Winning again, we got the division again. Winning again, they know that we got the division again. What a time to be a Packer fan. 4-6 to a 10-6, had to run the table, now we back again. Aaron gunning like it's Pakistan.
From the bottom to elite. Redskins had us beat. After that one on the street, Clay with the pressure, Perry with the heat.
He got the heat on the outside. We bring the heat to your team every week. 50 D rockin' golden is green and his team make it outshine.
About top, Roger scramble to extend throws. Jordy Nelson in the end zone. I drop a bomb straight to 17. Completing throws they ain't never seen.
They never seen it coming, they was sleep. We put that cables on them, that's the D. We tried to wake up on them, that's the 3. Yeah.
If you was hating on us, take a seat. They throwing shade on us, that's a treat. They try to gain on us, incomplete.
Go, Pack, go. Go, Pack, go. We win again. Go, Pack, go. Go, Pack, go. We win again.
And we're back. This is the Weekly Cheese, 90.3 WESS, East Stroudsburg University, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. And that was Run the Table by the Wisco Kids. And Week 16 is here. The NFL season has come and it has gone way too quick, if you ask me. But they did it. The NFL has been able to get through 16 weeks with all the COVID and having to adjust the schedule, and it really felt like at one point we would never see Week 16, but it's here, and it's a little scary. The Green Bay Packers got the Tennessee Titans coming into Lambeau Field for a Sunday night football matchup. The Titans are a same position as Packers, 10-4 team. Contender in the AFC, coming off of the AFC Championship game loss, just like the Packers were last year in the NFC. And this is a true test for the Green Bay Packers. It is a litmus test to see just where this team is at going into the postseason. And in my opinion, it's a perfect test for the Packers because it's truly going to test all their weaknesses. All of their weaknesses as a team will be challenged. Specifically, the run game. King Henry is coming to town. And it's going to be cold. And I don't know, I wouldn't want to tackle Derrick Henry in the cold. Sure, no, Kevin King isn't going to want to tackle Derrick Henry in the cold. And obviously, the key to the game is straightforward. The Green Bay Packers need to stop the run. They need to stop the run. If Derrick Henry is able to do whatever he pleases on the ground like he does against most teams in the NFL, even teams with good run defenses have a hard time with Derrick Henry. He is just that good. He is a running back in the MVP conversation. And the Packers defense needs to bring it. Pettin needs to get it schemed up. Stop Henry. That is the game plan for the Green Bay Packers. And if they cannot, it may be a very, very long game for everyone involved. Offensively, I have no doubt that the Green Bay Packers and their number one scoring offense in the NFL will respond. They will have a bounce-back game from the poor performance they had this past Saturday. And they're going to have a great game. Aaron Rodgers is going to put his name right back in the lead for the MVP conversation. He's going to have a monstrous performance next week. I said it last week about Saturday, but I think Aaron Rodgers He's going to have 5 touchdowns on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans in what's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a shootout. But in all seriousness, I do believe the Green Bay Packers will come out with a win. I believe they will win 34-28, cement themselves as the number 1 team in the NFC, earn themselves that first-round bye in the playoffs, going into the Week 17 matchup at Soldier Field. It's going to be a crazy game on Sunday. I literally get nervous just thinking about watching Derrick Henry run all over the Green Bay Packers. I mean, he had that stiff arm this past week. He had a stiff arm 3 weeks ago. He had a stiff arm 6 weeks ago. The man has just been a stiff arm walking highlight this year. And it's going to be fun to see the Green Bay Packers totally neutralize him in this upcoming Sunday. 34-28 Green Bay Packers, that's my prediction. And before we conclude this episode of the Weekly Cheese, I do just need to take a moment and just pay my respects and, just say rest in peace and pay my respects to the now late and great Kevin Green, 3rd all-time in sacks, NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer, and an integral part of the Green Bay Packers 2010 team. He was the linebackers coach for the Green Bay Packers for their Super Bowl run. He was a mentor to Clay Matthews and that whole outside linebackers group. WWE superstar. And it's just sad. 58 gone too soon. Rest in peace to Kevin Green, a true legend. And real sad. Real sad to hear that news about Kevin Green. But I have no doubt that he would be saying to this Green Bay Packers team, it is time. It is time. That's going to be it for this week of for this week's episode of the Weekly Cheese. Tune in next week to celebrate the Green Bay Packers Week 16 victory over the Tennessee Titans with me. And as always, remember, the cheese stands alone. Have a great night, everyone. Be safe. Have a very great holiday. Merry Christmas to everyone out there who's celebrating it. And talk to you next week. Go Pack, go. Have a good night, everyone.
I like my wife, she's okay. And for my kids, I'm thankful almost every day. I like my family, it's so dear to me. But I love the Green Bay Packers. I like my job, I like my friends. I like to drink a couple beers now and then. I like Wisconsin, it's the greatest state. But I love the Green Bay Packers. I love the green and gold in autumn sun and winter's cold. So let's all sing, young and old. We all love the green and gold. I like
her done, Pack.